Big news, Vikings faithful, and you are going to want to hear every detail about this shakeup behind the scenes. A key figure in our front office has officially decided to move on, leaving a major vacancy as our organization continues its massive transition. This departure marks the end of an era for one of our top personnel executives, and it raises serious questions about the direction of our roster management moving forward. We have all the inside information on why this move happened and what it really means for our team's future. Before we dive into the details, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a daily update on our beloved Vikings. The organizational shift within the Minnesota Vikings continues as former Assistant General Manager Ryan Grigson has officially departed the team. Following the transition to new General Manager Nolan Teasley, the front office structure has undergone significant changes. Grigson, who had served as the Senior Vice President of Player Personnel since 2022 before receiving the Assistant GM title last season, was offered the chance to remain with the franchise in a different capacity under the current regime. However, he has opted to move on and pursue an opportunity elsewhere, a development first reported by Neil Stratton and subsequently confirmed by various team insiders. This departure marks a notable conclusion to Grigson's tenure in Minnesota, which began when he joined the organization alongside former general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. At 54 years old, Grigson brings an extensive background to his future endeavors, having previously worked in scouting roles with the Rams and the Eagles before his time in the Twin Cities. His path to the Vikings was paved by his previous collaborations with Adofo-Mensah during their shared tenure in Cleveland, where Grigson held a senior advisory position. Now, as the organization looks to the future under Teasley's leadership, the removal of this long-standing executive role signals a distinct pivot in how the front office is being reshaped to meet new objectives. For the faithful who chant Skol. Every Sunday, this is just one piece of the broader transition occurring behind the scenes. As the Vikings move forward, the internal roster of executives looks fundamentally different than it did during the previous 3 years of operations. Understanding this movement is crucial to grasping the ongoing transformation occurring within the high-level decision-making ranks of our team as the 2026 season continues to progress across the league. The departure of Ryan Grigson is particularly significant given his history as the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts from 2012 to 2016. During that period, the Colts saw numerous victories. Yet, they often struggled to reach the elite level of championship contention in the AFC, even with Andrew Luck leading the offense. Historical discourse often highlights the criticism that Grigson failed to build a sufficiently robust offensive line, an issue frequently linked by observers to the premature end of Luck's career. While fans have no direct insight into the specific daily contributions of non-GM executives within the Vikings front office, Grigson was rarely a popular figure among the fan base. This sentiment was exacerbated by the general difficulties experienced during the tenure of the previous general management regime regarding draft outcomes. By choosing to exit rather than accept a new role under Nolan Teasley, Grigson effectively closes a chapter in his career that spanned from the Rams to the Seahawks and finally to Minnesota. Why does this matter right now for the team? It matters because it represents the complete clearing of the former assistant general manager tier that served under the prior regime. With Demetrius Washington also having departed during this current period of organizational change, the front office is now definitively molded to fit the vision of the new leadership. This is a total reset of the top-level personnel hierarchy. By bringing in new voices, the organization is clearly prioritizing a different structural approach to scouting and player personnel management. Every change in the executive suite directly impacts how the team approaches roster building, draft evaluation, and long-term strategy, making this departure a focal point for understanding the current direction of the franchise as we navigate the competitive landscape of the 2026 season. With Ryan Grigson officially out of the building, the focus shifts entirely to the incoming leadership team assembled by General Manager Nolan Teasley. The arrival of Andrew Healy and Trent Kirchner as the new assistant general managers sets a clear path for the future. Healy, who will serve as the number 2 football executive, brings an extensive background rooted in analytics, reflecting a specific professional philosophy that stems from his time with the Cleveland organization. This is a stark contrast to the previous approach and highlights the tactical pivot currently underway. On the other hand, Trent Kirchner offers a more traditional perspective on scouting and player personnel, following Teasley directly from their shared experience in Seattle. By balancing Healy's analytical expertise with Kirchner's traditional scouting acumen, the front office is attempting to create a dual-threat approach to talent acquisition. This structural change is more than just a list of names. It defines the new methodology of the franchise. It is a systematic removal of the old guard and the installation of a team that Teasley trusts to execute his specific goals. While Grigson's career is long and varied, his specific absence is now the catalyst for this new organizational alignment. For the fans observing these changes, the message is clear. The regime change is not just about the general manager, but about every single seat in the executive meeting room. The shift from the previous personnel hierarchy to this new hybrid model of analytics and traditional scouting is designed to change the fundamental way the team evaluates potential talent. As the dust settles from these departures, the real test will be how this new team functions under the pressure of the 2026 season and the upcoming roster requirements. The ripple effect of Ryan Grigson leaving extends to how the Vikings will handle future personnel decisions. Since both assistant GMs who served under the prior regime have now exited, the entire landscape of the front office support staff has been completely redesigned. This creates a vacuum of the old influence and replaces it with the direct reports of the current general manager. The departure of Grigson, who had been a senior vice president of player personnel since 2022, emphasizes that no position in the front office is guaranteed when a new leader like Nolan Teasley assumes the top spot. The transition process is often messy and creates uncertainty, yet it is a necessary part of the evolution of any professional organization. Because Grigson was so closely associated with the previous regime's draft strategies, his removal serves as a clean break from that era. This is critical for the perception of the franchise, as it signals that the new leadership is not tethered to the failures or the specific personnel philosophies of the past. The impact of this change will be measured in the coming months as the new assistant GMs begin to implement their own processes for player identification and acquisition. It is a fundamental shift in the engine room of the organization. While the public rarely sees the internal negotiations of the front office, the removal of a veteran executive like Grigson, who held the assistant GM title just last year, is a clear indicator of the magnitude of the changes happening behind the curtain. The team is now moving forward with a set of executives handpicked by the current administration, which is the most important factor for any organization aiming to move beyond the struggles of the previous years. Looking at the current state of affairs, the departure of Ryan Grigson is the final piece of a broad administrative overhaul. By declining the opportunity to serve in a different role, Grigson has finalized his separation from the Minnesota Vikings, leaving the path entirely clear for Nolan Teasley to implement his own personnel infrastructure. The organization is now moving ahead with Andrew Healy and Trent Kirchner, who are tasked with overseeing the critical facets of player personnel and football operations. This change is not merely a personnel shuffle, it is a strategic repositioning of the entire front office. Every decision made from here on out will bear the signature of this new team. For those who follow the franchise closely, the focus must now shift to how Healy's analytical background and Kirchner's scouting experience will integrate to improve the roster. The era of the previous management structure is officially over, and the team is operating under a completely refreshed leadership mandate. This organizational pivot is the defining story of the offseason, shaping how the franchise handles its future prospects and current commitments. As we watch this new front office take the reins, the expectation is that these structural changes will provide the stability and clarity needed for long-term planning. The departure of an executive as experienced as Grigson would have been a significant talking point regardless, but in the context of a total regime change, it is the capstone on a period of intense transformation. Whether you agree with these moves or not, the fact remains that the Vikings are charting a new course. Stay tuned as we continue to cover every development of this new era. Make sure to subscribe to follow the team's journey and keep up with all the updates as we head deeper into the 2026 season.